Happy New Year! There you go. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Tropical Nomad. We're here with our brother Shae Macnamara, founder, CEO of Expat Coffee. This is Expat. This is episode number. It was 513. I'm glad I got that bit right. So a few words about tonight's episode. So this week's SpeakuP Monday, we sit down with Shae Macnamara, as I've mentioned, founder and CEO of Expat.Roasters. Now, if you're here in Bali, you will know Expat for sure. It's a brand that has become part of Bali's daily rhythm while quietly setting a benchmark for values-driven growth. Now, from a clear personal vision to a recognized hospitality brand, Shae's journey offers rare insight into what it takes to really build something meaningful, scalable, and culturally grounded in Indonesia. So Expat.Roasters isn't just about coffee. It's about people, process, consistency, and creating a brand that locals, expats, and visitors all feel connected to. So some of the takeaways from tonight's show is turning vision into execution, how clarity at the start shapes long-term brand identity, building culture before scaling, so why internal values matter as much as external growth, and what makes a hospitality brand endure. Consistency, trust, community over hype. So whether you're an entrepreneur, a founder, operator, or creative building a brand in Bali, or Bali and beyond, let's say, this episode offers rare practical wisdom and grounded perspective, right? So a little bit about me, Robert and Bonnick, as you know, founder SpeakuP Monday, founder PT Carrier Life Group, gateway to Indonesia for business, growth strategist, advisor, speaker, co-founder of the first foreign investment chamber in Bali called Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber, a board of management for Sky Blue Sea Foundation. You would have heard about Bali Ocean Days, funny, an incredible annual event that takes place, and it's all about conservation and ocean use in Indonesia. Very prominent one, 4 or 5 ministers. Incredible event. A core partner of Health Hub Bali, Wellness, Health and Medical Tourism Initiative. That's why we need to talk. And then recognized by Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, Forbes Business Council, Founder Institute and Startup Grind, and named a #1 change maker in Bali and a top 10 motivational speaker in South Asia. Hands together again. Why not? Because, we need it, it helps us to focus. So, just want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We're in Bali, as I mentioned, we're in an inclement time, but hopefully the gods will look after us. If not, give us a blessing. So if we do move partway through, don't tune out. It's okay. It's part of the plan. So Shae, just to get us started, on the who is Shae Macnamara. So firstly, you're from Australia. I think we know that. But tell us where you're from in Australia, and like, was there something you look back in your childhood and was kind of pointing you towards entrepreneurship? And if so, what did that look like? Because part of the reason is that people watching here in the audience and people watching online may be in different stages of being an entrepreneur. Could be right at the beginning, right at the end, right? I mean, Rain over here is pretty big on entrepreneur. We have other people here which are probably more at the beginning. But yeah, so going back to the question, where are you from in Australia? And was there something in particular that kind of you felt looking back was kind of guiding you towards becoming an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because I think when looking at my childhood, my parents used to always say to me, you're the ideas man, or there was just jokes around the ideas man, because I'd always see different projects, or I'd see things and I'd say, oh, cranes, like, you got to be able to make a lot of money out of cranes. Like, I would sell things at school. I would always have different jobs, side jobs. I would do, sell illegal cigarettes when I was a young child, by the stick, because kids couldn't afford to buy a packet, like trying to find different markets around, throughout my whole childhood. And, this was very much, prominent in how I acted, and even when I got into the workforce, I still ended up in jobs where I was lucky enough that I could make changes within business. So it still felt like even when I was working for bigger companies, I could still make changes within those companies and make a difference. Or I was working for people who were doing things differently that I could learn from. So,
so a few things come up. And firstly, Brother Guzman, maybe turn up the speaker volumes just so everyone can hear, just in case. The other thing that comes up is that, so you mentioned ideas man, you mentioned optimizer, right? And you were fortunate enough to land in roles where you could make changes that made things better. So then, if I kind of then asked you this question, which is, if there were three, an alien from Mars, I don't know why Mars, comes down on Earth, boom, lands, right, looking at the human race, finds you, right, and it has this question saying, if there were three superpowers that Shae had and why, which three superpowers would they be?
I think one definitely is to think differently. So when I was a young kid, I was musician, dyslexic. I didn't really fit the school, the average school. Yeah, it's a common story with people that become entrepreneurs. But as I feel or for me, I was always thinking outside of the square. I wasn't thinking inside of the lines. I was always thinking about what the whole project looked like, or what things look like. So I think, one thing is that, I always thought differently. I always thought, I've always had no restrictions as well. People talk about things that are, people would say to me, that's impossible as a child. I'm like, no, it's not. Or you can't say that, you can't do that. And I'll say, oh yes, I can. Like, of course you can do that. And so even when I came to Indonesia for the first time, Edward, we laugh about often where, I had a 3x4 meter espresso bar, and I said to Edward when I first met him that I was going to be the biggest coffee company in Indonesia and then go global. And he went home and he laughed as he told his dad on the phone that night when he was speaking to his dad in Holland, and he was saying how, I bet this guy is crazy. He thinks he could do, he thinks he's going to be the biggest coffee company in Indonesia. And, which was, good question from his dad. His dad said to him, but do you believe him? So anyway, and he must have believed me enough because he's been working next to me for the last 8 years. So, but I think thinking differently, thinking outside the square, having no restrictions is definitely one, or having thing, and also like a self-belief. And I think there's I was blessed to have great parents that that raised me to believe that you could do anything, no matter what. So I always had a belief that when things were hard or things were anything, it was still okay. Like, it was still always positive linings, always things. So always been able to believe myself, believe I can do it, and that's it. Yeah.
So those who are getting rained on, just move back into the what do you call them? Into the cabanas, and then we'll probably think about moving soon. But we'll continue.
That's okay for now.
Then we'll look at going. Confidence, right? So you mentioned that your parents were smart enough, sharp enough, loving enough to kind of give you the sense of confidence. So if there was one lesson that you remember when you look back, because you have kids now, you have 3, it's like that there is something that's so important, and I'm really glad the parents gave it to me, because that was maybe one thing or one of the things that helped me to have this belief in myself. What would that be?
It's a tough one. It was more of a constant. I think that it was not a one off, but constant reinforcement. Constant belief, constant encouragement to continue doing what you're doing, continue to believe in yourself, continue to grow, to develop, to be better, to do things differently. So it wasn't necessarily a one-off line, but my parents always looked at things that were different to do as a kid. Always, whether it was sport or music or any other angles to go into, rather than just focusing on academics or something. When you came up with ideas or you started thinking entrepreneurial, definitely encourage those moments rather than rather than turning away from them, shying away from them, especially when you're doing things that weren't quite right as a kid.
Things that weren't quite right as a kid. I love that. After this, we'll kind of move forward, but it's just a question that popped into my mind, right? So you're doing Expat Coffee, right, which is obviously successful, and so on and so on and so on, which we'll get to later on. But if it wasn't Expat Coffee, what would it be? Where would Shae be making his impact?
Yeah, I've thought about it lots, and I've spoken about it lots of times in different things. But I was a failed musician, so I definitely tried to be a musician. Number one, I was a drummer going through high school. I was playing in bands and in pubs, a few nights a week, underage, playing in dodgy, dirty rock hotels through Sydney's western suburbs, eastern suburbs, and so the creative roles were always, or creative things were always thing. I loved food, and I love hospitality. So, and I feel that coffee became an outlet where I could become a performer. So a barista, I felt, was definitely a performer. So when I got to, when I got behind the coffee machine for the first time, and I understood that you could take people on a journey when they walked into a cafe. It wasn't just it wasn't a transaction. It became something that I became passionate about, that performance side of it, the hospitality and the side about bringing people in and changing people's days. Definitely encouraged. So I think it would have definitely been in food of some sort. Still, I love it. Coffee was the thing I ended up in. Coffee was the passion that I developed. I didn't even like coffee when I started looking into being a barista, or started looking into coffee. It was because I had to train myself how to like coffee or how to drink coffee, because I love the cafe environment so much. I love watching the baristas. I love sitting in cafes, so I trained myself how to like coffee because of that. So I think it still would have been in hospitality of some sort. It's just hospitality is a sick passion that people get, and when you've got it in your blood, it's very hard to get out.
I got a wild question for you. Right, it's coming, Brother Guzman. If you want, you can pull the TV out, and then we'll just hang out here. If it gets worse, we'll get some umbrellas. Now here's a question which I never thought I'd ask, right? But it's coming up now. So I'm laughing about it, but your fun is not a laughing matter, but it is, but it's not. So hospitality. So in Sydney, as you probably remember, I was deep into the clubs and the bars and the restaurants, but mainly clubs and bars, and we did extremely well, right? One of our projects was number 3 in the world, right? We really kicked ass, yeah? Now, while we were there, what we noticed was that there were others within the hospitality industry in Sydney who were also kicking ass, right? Now, there were 3 guys. They all looked good, smelled good. They were if you were to say what is success in the dictionary, there'll be a picture of them that pop up. This is success in the hospitality industry. But here's the thing, and this is also why SpeakuP Monday started. They all committed suicide in 1 year. 3 guys, very successful businesses, they all committed suicide in 1 year. Shocked everybody, including me. But now my question is, because the hospitality industry, and obviously I have my opinion about this as well, but why is it, do you think, that in the hospitality industry, people could get to that place, where they wanted to take their own lives? Because you've been around as well. If someone was watching this, maybe starting in the hospitality industry now, and you said, well, look, these are the things to watch out for. And I don't want to lead you too much, but at this point is when you ask for help. Because I know you would have been through times where you're probably thinking, should I really be doing this? It's that hard. There's so many challenges coming my way. I could be doing something else. I have many ideas. I'm an ideas guy, right? So to settle back into the question, suicide, mental health in the hospitality industry, for those coming into it, what's your view of it, and what are some of the really important pitfalls to watch out for?
Yeah. When I said a second ago, it's a sick passion. Hospitality definitely is, and it's a business that is long hours. It's it's not a lot of money. It's hard on your body. It's very much you're judged every day by tens or hundreds or thousands of people that are walking through the doors on your product. it's a business that a lot of the time you're not being thanked for. There's now especially even more than before is, with online, with reviewers that are going in and they might have a bad experience for some reason, and they can break businesses very easily that have worked hard to create something and put their heart and soul into something. So I think the industry is a hard industry, and I think that there's definitely these moments of moments where people can get depressed very easily, can feel that it's not worth it. But also when you only know hospitality, if you're a chef, if you're a barista, sometimes you feel that's all you know. It's hard to get out and get other jobs. So I think there's communities around, and I feel that I was.
Sorry, just
Yep.
So, good. If you put some over there, could you get some umbrellas for us too? Yeah. We're going to go umbrellas. Probably about now is good with umbrellas. Yeah. Umbrella times 2. Woo! Shay's going to say, Rob, next time you ask me on the show. All right.
Cool. Are we doing this?
Yeah. All right, people, hold on. As I said, there might be a slight correction. All right. So stay where you are. It was close. So Shae, let's keep on talking, but there won't be any vision. So thank you. So Shae.
Wait.
So I interrupted you part way through. Goose, we still got this. All right, hold on. Interesting session. Goose, can you set the microphone?
Yeah, you can test me now.
Yeah, test. Okay, we're still running. Great. So, Shae, so you were part way through explaining about mental health, and you're saying that it is so difficult because it's an industry which, for the time and energy and effort you put into, it's not necessarily something that's going to pay you commensurately for your time. You mentioned as well, just the difficulty when you have people which are, coming in with a review, like a keyboard warrior, coming in, and for whichever reason, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they don't like you, and then they can give you a really terrible review that then affects and impacts your business going forward. So is there any other ways or other things as we walk into this mental health arena that you think are really important for people to know about before getting into the hospitality industry?
Yeah, I'll say, but it's also it's hard on your body. I think if you're doing 12-hour days, 6 days, 7 days a week, sometimes 14 hours, 16-hour days, standing on your feet, not moving much, but standing, like just a few steps here, you can get tired, you can get exhausted, you can get over it. So I think there's definitely a tendency for people to feel to feel after years of doing this, after they can start to feel like it's a draining on them, and it's a conscious. Are we on? We're in.
Yeah, keep on. Yep. Just.
And I was saying it's very conscious within our business. Like we as a company, we've got. We were one of the first, I think, that I know of anyway, and we were told that we're one of the first in Bali to have mental health programs within our company, so that we have free mental health services through our business, because it is something that, I was lucky enough to be able to get through, go through the stages of hospitality and to be able to work in different areas and to stay passionate and to stay positive and to stay, in love with the industry. But there's a lot of people that aren't, and I've worked with so many people that have become depressed. We've had a lot of people that I know, have suffered way too much because of it. And as the industry, together, I think it's one of the things that we need to, combat together, and we need to be part of. Communities are important, having people to talk to. There's, definitely, chefs get together on certain nights in Sydney. There's always chef nights where the chefs would all go out together and would all, hospo nights, and stay together, because, you're not going out when your friends are going out because you're serving them.
Yeah.
You know, you're running those restaurants that everyone's wanting to go to, so you need those connections within the hospitality industry to all understand what each other are going through, to understand how, and to keep your social life, to keep your, to keep the lifestyle there as well, especially, as you're, as you're coming through the years. So yeah.
Thank you. And for those, just make sure everyone can hear you. In the audience, put the hands up, fingers up, thumbs up. You can hear Rain. Okay, that's good. So if you're wondering about the vision, so we've been blessed by Bali, so we're kind of making it up on the fly. But if you can still hear us, that's a good thing. And Brother Guz, if it stops, we'll go back out. But maybe if you get one of these lights on Shae, and I just so they can see him properly. So we're watching episode 513, and we're talking about Expat Coffee, Expat.Roasters. We have the CEO and founder, Shae Macnamara. And look, so moving in towards Expat now. So firstly, maybe let people know what you've achieved. Because some people, they don't maybe know how many venues are you serving, how many kilos of coffee are going out a week, if that's a variable that's important. But what are some numbers that you can give to people so they have an idea of the scale of this thing?
Yeah, I said we started in end of 2016. We opened the doors with a 3x4 meter espresso bar with 6 staff members and a big dream. And today we serve around probably just over 1,000 venues around Indonesia. So we have we wholesale coffee, so we're a coffee roaster, and we're on.
Keep on going, mate.
Yeah, but we've got our wholesale business. We look after and we service about 1,000 partners, 1,000 venues, 1,000 sites around Indonesia. We've got just about opening our 10th store in Indonesia. That's Expat.Roasters branded stores. So whether it's our company-owned store or whether it's a joint venture stores, we've got 10 of those now within Indonesia. We're starting to expand. We're looking at opportunities. We've just signed a couple of opportunities overseas, so Malaysia, and then some other businesses that we're just in talks with, and we're looking at doing a few more overseas ventures. So yeah, so from starting off with a small shop and a big dreams, we're in our roastery, in our factories now, almost 2,000 square meters, with all the equipment we need to keep going for a while.
So these are big numbers, right? 1,000. That stuck with me, as I'm sure it does with you every week. So my question then is, on that kind of scaling side, so you mentioned that you had a big dream. You have this mindset of, I can do it, self-belief. You think different. You're an ideas guy. But then how does all of that touch down in a place like this? So giving a bit of substance to what I'm trying to say here. So as we know, Bali is a beautiful place. We're in Indonesia, over 17,000 plus islands, 700 plus cultures, 500 plus languages. Bali's one island out of that 17,000, blah, 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 right? You're talking about tourism. It contributes to like 70 plus % of tourism comes through Bali into Indonesia, foreign tourism. And, but it's only 5% of GDP, a little bit less actually, of the whole of Indonesia. You're talking about a place that's over 5 or 6 hours to fly from one side to the other. It's a huge place. So with all these cultures and ideologies and ways of doing business, so you have an Australian with a dream, right? Coming into this kind of environment. So I'll break this down. So probably the first question would be around, how did you get started? And looking back, what were some of the biggest challenges that you can talk about that you experienced in a way that maybe someone else who's watching this, maybe an Aussie, maybe from somewhere else, Scandinavia, who knows, who's looking to maybe come and develop their dream in Bali. what would you say to that? So going back to the question is, so what in that initial phase were some of the biggest challenges that you faced? And if you were going to advise someone who's stepping in now, what advice would you give them?
So there's a few things in that, obviously. First thing, I was blessed to work for a big multinational company. I got insights into Indonesia. When I was in Australia, I was working for them, but the business covered different parts of the world, including Indonesia. So I knew the growth of Indonesia. I was excited by the growth of Indonesia. I loved Bali. My wife and I got married in Bali, and we had a beautiful dream of Bali, a beautiful idealistic view of Bali. So then coming in, and I started doing a little bit of consulting, helping out a few people just in Bali, understanding the numbers. So just understanding what business was like in Bali, understanding what business was like in Indonesia, and so when I opened the doors, we had this big vision, big dream, but with really a little footing in it as well. So we were rooted in understanding of the Indonesian culture. I came to Indonesia for Indonesia. I didn't come to Bali for a Bali business only. And when we talk about Bali, it's very much Bali is a beautiful lifestyle. It's a great place to raise my kids. It's a great place to set up a brand. And so when we talk about our brand, we talk about a brand that's been founded, it's been born in Bali. We've got all of our roots from Bali, but we've got international concepts, international ideas, international thoughts. Born in Bali and raised in Bali and taken through Indonesia and then taken to the world. So although the brand definitely is ready and has to have a feeling of we could take it anywhere in the world. Bali is definitely our home. Bali is the place where we love the most, and we're blessed to be here. We also saw, and I also saw an amazing opportunity to be, connected to communities through farming communities. When you're in Australia and you don't really have coffee farms, commercial coffee farms, there's a little bit more growing day by day. But Australia was, definitely we had to travel. If I wanted to go talk to coffee farmers, I was flying to Indonesia. I was flying to South America, to Central, you had to fly around the world, the other side of the world to really get to connect with a coffee farmer. And then you're there for 2 or 3 days, and then you're out again. And so when I saw Indonesia, I thought it's an amazing opportunity with the growth opportunity. Here is huge. The economy is growing so fast. It's the culture of coffee is already in the blood of Indonesians. It's already part of culture here, and it's about how do we just keep being part of the evolution and growing into specialty coffee, into premium coffees, and to be able to be part of that journey, as well as working with all of those communities, the farming communities, the barista communities, the roasting communities, and the hospitality communities in general. So keep growing that, as well as entrepreneur, and the business communities.
So what I can see then is that obviously with you chose a business that has a lot of moving parts, and thank you for also sharing about the farming side of it, because that goes deep into questions that we're going to bring a little bit later on about social impact. But to that question then of coming into this market, as you said, you had the fortune, or you made it fortunate for yourself that you could consult first, that you had a business or a company that could kind of land you here, so you could do scouting, that you could understand the view from other entrepreneurs about Bali, about what's happening and the challenges that they're facing and so on. So what it kind of sounds like then is that the smart thing to do is, if you come to somewhere like Bali, don't just come, I'm going to set up a business tomorrow. Come and check things out first. Yeah,
well, and also, I think you said you touch on challenges and touch on, what would you do first. And one of the greatest strengths in coming and opening a business sometimes, and it was for me, was naivety. To have a naive positivity, to be naive to the business challenges that might come along. That was because if someone sat down and told you all of the challenges that happen in business, no matter where you are in the world, and they just filled you full of all these challenges, a lot of the times, most times, you wouldn't do the business. So it's good to be able to do the research and understand the numbers, and also to to have some facts on the table. I worked for a multinational. I saw facts. I saw all the numbers about the country, and I did my own research through consulting. I saw that there was a need for a full service coffee company. I saw that there was no one doing training, development. There was no one understanding farming right through to pouring latte art or brewing pour-overs and beautiful coffee at the tables and right at people's, and serving people. So I saw that there was the need. I was physically there for it. I understood the numbers, but it was also a naive view on setting up businesses and understanding Indonesia, because I didn't know Indonesia enough. I didn't know business enough. And that was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me by not knowing it enough.
This question, thank you, kind of puts together two others, right? Well, one we answered before. So we mentioned, about the social impact side of it, or I did. And so I want you to take us into that social impact side, however that lands for you, but also through the filter of, you mentioned how hard the hospitality business is. So knowing that you're an ideas guy, that you have no limits, plural. Why on earth did you choose what's your driving passion for choosing the hospitality industry? And then you can put that together with the social impact side of what you see here.
Yeah, I think one of the things, touching on it again, is I said earlier was, you get the chance to make a difference in people's lives every day as being a barista. And I feel Bali, you can do the same thing. I feel like there's, with business, with training, with developing staff, with giving more opportunities, with helping businesses. We partner with so many businesses. There are 1,000 venues around Indonesia. Each one of those venues, through our training, through our development, through our teams, Hyundai, his teams, to be able to go out and support these guys, to be able to train young baristas, thousands of baristas every year that we train. Everyone who uses our coffee comes through our training programs. Everyone that uses our coffee does constant audits and training, so they're always being developed. So, we can make a difference like that. The same way as when I was a barista, I could make a difference when I poured a love heart on a lady's coffee when she walked in the morning, and called her by her name, asked her how the kids were, had the guy came in and talked to him about the sporting team that he follows and how they went on the weekend, and made him a delicious flat white, and they could start their day better by having that little bit of conversation, that little bit of a little bit of attention shown to them in the mornings, and that same impact you can just do on a bigger scale. And I think through Bali, we're blessed to be here in Bali, but also through Indonesia to have the access to so many people. Such a beautiful country, such a big, growing, developing country that we can grow fast, and we can touch so many people around the country.
So we've got about 5 minutes, and we're going to go to questions. So if you have any questions in the audience, which are interesting positioned in an interesting way today, feel free to think of what those questions might be. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So so then we've kind of covered a few bases here, right? We kind of covered a bit of the background on you, what inspires you, motivates you, drives you. And I love that, right? And I obviously connected with it a lot, and I think we both do. And then also some of the challenges facing here, but then also this sense of naivety, right? If you know everything that could go wrong, it's like, I don't want to do this business. People must be crazy, right? I'm not going to do it.
Exactly.
Right? I love that. And then you kind of moved into the social impact side, which is really about, again, my big thing and our big thing here is about what are you contributing to Indonesia, right? whether that's small or large, it doesn't matter. But it's this contributive mindset as opposed to the opposite one, which is I'm here just to take.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously, you've answered that about training thousands of baristas, Indonesians, every single year, coffee. And I know that you have the pathways. Like I look at my brother Yande, YJet, right, who's been with you for so many years. Edward, been with you so many years. Your wife, who's still married to you.
She's still been with me so many
not
years.
divorced, right? I see that, right? I see you, Jess. I see you, darling. Right? But these staff, these partners, the people you work with, have been with you for a long time. When we as a cafe back in Life in Bali days over here at Brow, where we started SpeakuP Monday, and I remember it was like, we need coffee, we need Expat. Yeah, let's try them out. And everyone's like, damn, these guys are good. But it's the same team that I see now, 8 years later, as I did then, right? So it's a phenomenal achievement. So then as we kind of begin to get towards the end of this particular part of the show, what is it that you're working on now, your future plan? So looking at Expat going forward 5, 10 years, 20 years, is this a legacy thing for you? Is this something which, I don't know, we have guys on the show who, and Yande, don't listen to this please, and don't blame me if he says no, but I have entrepreneurs on the show which have basically given their business away to their team, right? With certain let's say points in place to make sure that it continues to trade as it is, and that any profit is shared, and obviously the founder still gets a piece. I'm not saying you should do that, by the way, but is there any future plan for Expat Roasters, and what does that look like?
Yeah, well, currently, we're having a lot of fun still, and it's the visions of what are you going to do? Are you going to just stop here? Are you going to sell the business? Are you going to? There's all questions that are thrown all the time around building a company, and what's the who's you're going to get investment in and grow to be as big as whoever, or are you going to go public, or what's the purpose? What are you doing? First thing is we still enjoy it. Yande and I, as you're saying, but mentioned him, but we talked about this 10 years ago. So before the business even started, we were talking about how do we do things better and how do we do things different, and how can we make an impact in Indonesia, make an impact with baristas, with our training, sustainability practices. How do we do things better than anyone else? And this morning, at the 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever it was in the morning, we're sitting in my office talking about how do we do things better? What's the difference we can do with water, with training, with our developments, with our cafes that we're in? How do we constantly do things better? So it's our future is definitely about how we can continue to grow, develop, change, do things better in our own venues, do things better as a partner for our wholesale venues, how we can continue to do things more sustainably. We have implemented things that are easier to do in Bali. Things like reusable packaging we can do easier in Bali, where we have delivery services. We have things that we can save millions of bags of plastic and things going into the environment. But when we stretch out, as you say, over all the islands, over the size of Indonesia, how do we continue to create and to develop our sustainability practices to be leaders in that area as well, not just a supplier, but to continue to help businesses to be more sustainable and have less impact. And also just to continue growing as as a great partner. So our wholesale business grows every year sustainably. We try to make sure that that all the partners we're bringing on are partners. We're not just dropping coffee, or it's not it's not a commodity product that we're just dropping on people's doors, but we're actually partnering with them to grow their businesses. And so we'll continue to do this year on, year out. We're, as I said, we're moving overseas. We will take this to different countries. We'll take Expat.Roasters with every time we do something, every time we do a project, we always make sure it's always got a touch of Bali, a splash of Bali in and everything. So to take, Bali to the world is one of our big dreams that we want to do. We want to make sure that the coffee farms in Bali that we partnered with 10 years ago when we're having samples of their experimental processes, that we're still using those same guys, and I'm having lunch with those same producers last week, and how do we take those same producers and how do we take them to the rest of the world? How do we take Bali coffee to the rest of the world, and show what we're doing here, show it in a different way, be an international brand with a good splash of Bali everywhere we go.
Just as we go to questions, you may be tuning in now. We got blessed before. We got rained on here, so now we're having this very interesting way of doing a Speak Up show. But we're very flexible here, and we don't miss a show. So this is how we roll. So firstly, thank you for being open to doing things a little bit differently. Always appreciated, mate. But that's also you now, right? Doing things differently. So that's really good. So just before we go to questions, just raise your hand if you have a question, and the mic will get to you. So one thing that just fascinates me, knowing what you know about Indonesia, Bali as an island of Indonesia, if there was one, this is a personal question, if there was one skill that you wished you had going through this process as you kind of evolved into what this huge business is now, if there was one skill that you wished you had, what would that skill have been, and why?
I'll either have the skill to be able to handle the rain right now, to be able to, cut out the rain out of Bali. No, definitely the skills are always around people and people development. Yeah. So, I've always had a focus on the team, people, how do we grow, but the skill level will definitely be around how can we understand more deeply about people, how do we understand what makes people tick, how to make people better every day, and that's a skill that we're trying to learn. We focus on. We definitely try to develop within ourselves, within our teams, within myself. So definitely more skills around this, more skills around how to build people and how to build people around that. So. We've got hundreds of staff that wear an Expat.Roasters uniform. So, how to make their lives better every day is just as important as how to make our customers' lives better every day.
Got it. No, mate. What two things come up. Hey, Sadi. Yeah, we're in here, so feel free to walk this way. Two things that come up. Number one, I wish I would have developed the same skill about controlling the rain as well.
Hold the rain doctor.
A rain doctor. We didn't get a rain doctor in today. Number two, mate. What a pleasure. To understand a little bit more about you. Even though I've kind of known you for like a while, but lots of these things that you shared with us tonight, I wasn't aware of. So it gives me a greater sense and depth of understanding about you. So let's go to questions, guys, somehow. So if you just raise your hand if you have a question for Shae. I have a few more questions, so it's fine, right, if you haven't. But just raise your hand. Let's have a look. Yes. So that way with the mic, Guz. Yeah. And then Guz, for the Instagram Live, if we could get one of those lights maybe over here somehow to get more light on his face, because the Instagram Live is a bit dark. Yeah. Take your time, Guz. Just think it through. All good, brother. Yes. Is it on? We just switched it on. Yeah. All right. Wait a second. Wait.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Okay. Cool. Thanks for sharing your story. The one word that kind of kept coming back is team development, leadership. It'd be great if you could share a bit more around perhaps how you identify talent, bring them on board, and then actually develop them. One of the challenge I personally found was around kind of making sure that people keep doing what you want them to do, speak up with ideas. How do you go about this? How do you find this in people or develop this?
Yeah, this is this obviously it's a constant development, with our business, within ourselves, within our people and culture teams. We're lucky that we've got a good team around us that help in these ways. So training, education, definitely part of our core of our business, not just for our staff, but also for our partners or our customers. It's a big one. There's, identifying talent is it's a challenge anywhere in the world, and I think that's one thing that we're always questioning, how do we do it better as well. So for us, we look at people. We don't look at nationalities or necessarily their education levels or anything like that necessarily, but we try to look at when we're hiring for management positions or hiring for any sort of leadership roles. It's definitely about how do we get the best people in. We advertise in different places around the world and to see what the differences are with people. But also generally when it comes back to we've got pretty much a full Indonesian team. We Indonesians they know Indonesia best. They know the culture, they know the people, the food, the taste, the trends, and so we have very few foreigners working for our business. Not because we don't hire them, but just as a rule, generally we Indonesians definitely understand the business better. And yeah, I think there's things about constant upgrading culture or constant upgrades to your culture. Like we've gone through times when things have been really tough, and we've had to make decisions where we've said, we have to let people go, or people have to leave the business. They choose to leave the business, and it's a tough time with that. But it's about how do you build back up the culture and build trust around your teams, obviously. So.
Thank you.
I don't know it was a great answer, but it's definitely something we're working on as much as anyone else, and to keep growing.
I guess maybe more around the management level then, because I find working level people in Indonesia are generally quite easy to find. It's then identifying those managers and developing them, getting them to speak up. Often people don't want to be promoted to a manager because their colleagues are all friends, right? If they become a manager, then they feel like they can no longer be friends with the people that report to them. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with such challenges? Yeah, have you experienced this?
Yeah, it definitely happens a lot. We're talking about it. We're talking about today in a meeting where there was there's staff that we're trying to promote, but they don't want to be promoted. And there's in Indonesia there's a bunch of reasons why people won't take promotions. And I think to tell a story, I once tried to promote someone, and he said to me, no, he doesn't want the promotion, years ago, in a restaurant, in a big cafe, and he said, I don't want the promotion. I said, why don't you want the promotion? This is, from where you're going now, you're skipping up two levels in this. It's a lot more money. It's a much more prestigious role. And he said, if I take this role, I'll have higher expectations on myself, which means I'll work harder, which means I won't spend as much time in the community, which means no one will come to my funeral when I die. Right? And that was a legitimate answer that he came up with, which is hard one to go around. So there's so many different things why people don't want to be promoted or don't want to grow in different areas. But there's also a lot of people who do want growth. There's also a lot of people who might need a little bit more encouragement, but still will will grow. There's also a lot that comes down to training, training and development. So a lot of times people know how to do a job, but they don't know how to be a manager or don't know how to be a leader. And it's about how we can train and develop as much as possible in those sort of roles, so that they understand and they can feel like they have authority and they can still make decisions without insulting the people around them that they're once at the same level with, especially.
Great question, Robbie. Thank you so much, mate. Now, I think Sari had a question, so if you chance to right now, Shae, for you, being a hospitality guy is very difficult, but the cameras are pointing from here, so somehow you're looking at them because they're speaking, which is how I would do it.
Sorry. I got my back to the cameras. But.
You're all right. Okay, Sister Sari, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, Shane. I was talking to a very long-term expat in Bali, and he said he saw the coffee industry in Bali from nothing to the coffee industry now with expat coffee and Bali beans and everything, and he felt like he's missing the bandwagon.
Yep.
So he's making me aware there's also Indonesia have the best black tea in the world, but we hasn't packaged it very well. There is the product like Sariwangi, the mass market. So it occurs to me as Indonesian, I feel the duty of having the brand tea of Indonesia, especially my mom is half Javanese. I'm half Javanese. So is there any plan for expat tea? Just my interest.
Yeah. Well, the first time I met Edward, I told the story earlier. Edward, who came on as my sales guy, he was selling me tea, and
maybe the same person actually, the one who actually gave me the idea.
But he said to me, he was talking to me about tea, and I said, we'll have to have our own brand of tea because I'll be the biggest coffee roaster in Indonesia, and so we'll have to have our own brand of tea that goes with it. That was the conversation that I was the bit more detail of the conversation I had earlier, or the thing that's. But tea is definitely one of the one of the things that Indonesia grows amazing, and they grow it really well. Yeah. Same as coffee, but coffee wasn't known. Yeah. When I said I was going to do specialty coffee in Indonesia, people in Australia laughed at me, and they said the coffee in Indonesia it's got its place. But its place is not specialty coffee. Its place is the earthy body. It's you use it in blends to help build up a coffee blend, and then you get your flavors from Ethiopia or from Costa Rica or from but you use Indonesian coffee more as the body and the strength. And so I think tea's always been seen a little bit the same like that as well. And so traveling around to the coffee plantations, I often see tea plantations, and I see there's a lot of development in the farming, and I hope so. I definitely hope that there's more and more.
Will be expat tea coming.
More. I love it. Yeah.
Love that too. Expat tea. Love
expat
it.
Tea.
So, any other questions from this side? Rains, guys, is good. Any other questions? Do you have a question? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, mate.
Your lovely wife came along to our session on, protecting your brand, and I'm just wondering, have since, in reflection, you looked at your IP strategy in protecting your brand, and where are you at with that? The reason I ask is it's an interesting name, it's a great name, it tells the story of half of Bali, and where are you at now on your IP journey?
Yeah, well, I think before we even opened, we trademarked names before, and coming into Indonesia, it was done well before we opened the doors or before we sold a kilo of coffee. But that's also there's challenges all around the world, and there's challenges all around Indonesia. They're around IP and understanding. I saw brands that are very close to ours that use the same fonts and same logos exactly, except maybe a little bit here and there changed.
The letter S.
Yeah. I've walked into cafes and we've seen coffee bags on the wall, and then we're like, I didn't realise this was a customer. And then when you look at it closely, there might be typos or spelling mistakes on the bag, and you think it's not our coffee. And people posing as us, making different things. So there's challenges all the time, and we're always growing and developing our teams. And as a coffee company to have legal departments and have legal teams in lots of places of the world is not known and not heard of. But here we obviously have have our own legal department within the business that looks after all that. Yeah. and obviously,
All right. There you go. For a minute there, I thought privileged conversation online, but no, it wasn't. So it's fine.
one-on-one conversation.
All right. So, any other questions, beautiful people? It's chilling out. Your wife is looking at me. Now she's looking at me thinking, don't ask me any questions.
Yeah.
Jess, you're next. No, you're not. You're not. You are, Jess. So look, a few questions that we said as a takeaways, right? So turning vision into execution, how clarity at the start shapes long-term brand identity. So we've spoken about all of these, but maybe if we just go direct to the question, how would you answer that, right? So again, turning vision into execution, how clarity at the start shapes long-term brand identity.
Yep. When we opened the doors, we were very clear on who we were. We were, a specialty coffee company. We had international standards. We had international ideas, and we were underpinned by Indonesian people, Indonesian coffee, and to be able to take Indonesian coffee to the world as something that they weren't respecting as much in the specialty zone. So to be able to do that, and we knew that we were going to be a wholesale coffee company or a coffee roaster that was going to be one of the major players in Indonesia. That was, who we were, a coffee roaster, specialty coffee roaster, and we had our cafes that were always going to do things strong and better, and we always had a focus on training. We always said that our customers, the product their customer serves is as important as what we serve in our own cafes. And so, as we've grown, we have kept those same things in place. So, when we had 4 coffee or coffee shops or different companies using our product, we had Hyundai going out and doing training and assessments on them, once every couple of weeks. Now we have teams of trainers all over the country that are going out there and doing assessments and training on every customer that uses the Expat.Roasters brand. We still have that same focus on making sure that people drink Expat.Roasters, they get a certain experience, and if it's not that experience, then we need to go in, and it's our duty to help train the baristas, to be able to help work with the business owners to be able to produce a delicious cup of coffee for the consumer.
Just while we're there, I know the process. I don't think it's changed, but it would be good because if someone maybe is looking at this now saying, well, okay, this guy Shae seems pretty good. I've seen Expat around. I've heard things from him that I realized what kind of person he is, right? So I want to get Expat in my coffee shop or in my restaurant. So there's 2 questions. One question is, what is the process for someone to sign up, and what is it that they get, which you've already intimated at? And then number 2, or the second part to that, is what if someone wants to partner with Expat? Maybe they have a building, right? And it's not just bring you in as a coffee brand that's preferred. It's like, no, we want you from the beginning. How do we create design? What's that process? What does that look like? So these are the 2 questions, right? So please feel free to answer whichever one first.
Yeah, so to partner with us as if you need coffee supply in your venue, that is, it's a pretty simple process where you can call Edward and his team. So you've got a team of that based in Bali or Jakarta. We've got Surabaya, wherever you are. We can have a conversation around what the needs are of your venue to make sure that we're the right partner, we're the right fit, to make sure that it is a brand alignment and that we can work together to grow together. So there's those conversations that happen first, and then if we decide together that we will work together, that's the right journey. Expat.Roasters is the right brand to use that brand. Then we will deliver training to your baristas. We'll make sure that your baristas are trained before they use our product. Make sure that the coffee is calibrated, and make sure that the customers from day one will be tasting what they have tasted in other venues or what they've tasted in our own venues, not to think. So the process is relatively simple. We want to make sure that what we're delivering is our promise around quality. Our roastery has higher standards. We've got colour sorters and destoners and all these sort of things that our QC checks are way above what I've seen in Australia or what I've seen in lots of places around the world. And so what we're doing in the roastery, what we're doing in our training and our support for customers is what we say it is. So we continue to work on that, make sure that's all right. And then the other thing is with shops. So Expat.Roasters, we've got our as I said, we've got 10 stores around the country. That is a combination of stores that are company owned, or that we have partners in as well. So that's definitely conversations that are that are a lot more in depth. That to make sure that everyone is very much aligned, and partners are they're offering the same visions and values and everything as our company. We have closed down stores since we've opened them for different reasons, and that's generally because there's not an alignment with our partner or with the landlord or the area that we're in. So
thank you, Mike. I was about to ask you why you're closing down, but you kind of answered that one. Building culture before you scale. Why internal values matter as much as external growth.
Yeah, I think internal value. So our values, very much. It's part of who we are, right? It's part of our inductions. It's part of making sure that we do what we do every day. Part of that is around staff and the questions that we've had to make sure people have the courage to create and the courage to still speak up and the courage to take bigger jobs. And things like transparency to make sure that we're open, that we're building this new roastery and this new factory, that we're glassing everything in. So even though it's a big commercial factory that you can't necessarily just walk through, and it's not a shop coffee roaster, but it's a commercial coffee roastery, but we're glassing it in so that people can sit back and they can look into our factory and see the beans we're using, what we're doing, how we roast, the equipment we roast on, making sure we live to being transparent and in what we're doing. We set these, we set a goal to be something big, to be a big player in Indonesia, but we've always said that we need to make sure that we do it good. We need to make sure we do it ethically. We need to make sure we do it sustainably. We need to make sure that what we're doing, our impact is not too big on the environment, and however we can cut those sort of things down, however we can keep increasing the quality in our service, in our techniques, we need to keep pushing those. So from day one we said we want to do things like pouring latte art at the table. We want to pour coffee in front of people so they understand how coffee is poured, or how that love heart on top of your coffee is made. And when we first opened, our first days that we did it, first days that we're opening in Seminyak, we did it. And today, if you go in, hopefully you're lucky enough where you can get one of the staff will do latte art at the table as soon as if they've got the opportunity, they'll be doing it at any one of our stores. So,
got it, brother. And look, just final few questions now as we begin to wrap up. So, the future, you've got into a bunch of what the plans are, how you're going to achieve it and so on, but let's talk about technology for a second. I mean, we had a chat earlier on just off camera about AI and just how much of a game changer it is in certain areas of life. So if I would ask you then, when it comes to the entry into business is one part, the how do you stay there is another part, and then how do you grow there into the future is another part. So if we look at the third part of how do you grow into the future, so how much or to which extent does emerging technologies play a part in what you're doing with Expat when you're future facing.
On any of our business documentation that you will read, there will generally be a statement of mine, or any videos that you'll see. Most of them will talk about how we have to constantly respect the combination of science and art, and how they can merge together. And coffee is one of those beautiful things that we have, from day one, we've said we want to be the best, we want to be big, we want to be all the, but in that meant we have to respect technology. We have to use roasting techniques, technology, and the programs we use to check every single roast, we use caloritres and agtrons and colours and refractometers, and we use science to understand. When we use refractometers to understand how much stuff is in the water of an espresso, that's great to get a reading. It will give us science will tell us, how much stuff is in that water. But it's not until we taste it that we say, this is what we're looking for. The strength is there, the body's there, yes, that we've got a reading from, but also those delicate chocolates, blueberries, whatever you're tasting in that coffee, it is exactly what we want, or it's exactly what we don't want. We're tasting things that we don't want, and we can't have that. So, the tasting and the art form is definitely respected as much as technology. Moving forward in cafes, there's definitely technology is playing a big part of cafes, and what we do in the future. It's between ordering, loyalty programs, the process of making coffee and automating things behind the coffee bar, all of those things. Technology is driving the future of coffee in those areas. And for me, one of the biggest things is to be able to, love the technology that's doing that, and then still have the customer service enough when someone walks into the venue to be able to talk to them about the nuances or the delicate points about the coffee, why it's different, even though a machine might have made it.
Gotcha. Last question, maybe. And Jess, close your ears for this one, right? By the way, Jess is a beautiful wife of our brother Shae, and she's upfront and personal with dealing with compliance and everything else here in Indonesia for their business. So, we started Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber, which is it's probably the first foreign investment chamber in Bali, which is supported by central, regional, and local government. And part of the mandate of it is, there's not necessarily an alignment of policies that get executed from central to regional to local. Sometimes things are a little bit out of sync, is one. Two is that maybe foreign investors also have ideas of how can we make the process smoother for foreign investment to come into Indonesia, and so on and so on and so on, and be allocated and deployed. Then the third part is around, so then how do we contribute in making policy? Now, we don't make policy, but how can we contribute in that discussion, right? So now for you as a person who's been at the cliff face, right? Expat.Roasters, 1,000 venues, Surabaya, Jakarta, Bali, and other parts of Indonesia, going overseas soon. For a group, a chamber like Bali Tourism and Investment Chamber, what would be maybe 1, 2, or 3, you choose, key directives that you would look at, which would then determine whether you wanted to join or not? So another way to look at it is, which challenges and problems have we faced as a company growing up in Indonesia, and what or which elements did we need to be in place to make it easier for us? So either one of those two ways to it, I'll leave it to you to answer.
There's definitely challenges through all these type of areas are very prominent. So when you're doing business here and trying to understand foreign investments and things, one of the biggest things that I hear from everyone else, and I feel it as well, is clarity and understanding about what the actual is. And it's about having some, whether it's a chamber or whether it's a group of people that can help you to give clarity to how, and sometimes there is no clarity, right? Some rules are a little bit open to interpretation, and depending on who's interpreting them, they're a little bit different. But there's definitely a need for clarity in business and investment.
Applause for yourself, audience, please. Thank you for being here with the rain and everything else coming in. It makes it more interesting, that's for sure. So one of the things I'll leave you with, Shae, is there anything else that maybe you would like to see, or anything else that you would like to speak about or speak into that either is reiterating what you said already, or maybe it's something that you haven't spoken about. Maybe it's sustainability, ESG, I don't know. But if there's something left that you would like to leave people with, a minute or so, would love you to expand upon what that is. In that summing up, would love you to let people know if they want to get in touch with you, how do they do that, which I'm sure is quite simple. But please feel free to do that as well. You've got about a minute and a half to think about it. In the meantime, I just want to thank everybody. Hopefully this is the camera here. If you're on Instagram Live, you can't see me. You can see Shae, but that's okay. You already know what I look like. I just want to thank everybody who's come out. I really am passionate about what we do. People inspire people. Unity and diversity, entrepreneurship and social impact is really the key. So when I look around and I see my sister Sadi, Balinese, Malakat Hukum lawyers, Gareth, with the business of trademarks and how that operates, Valerie, Rob, and look behind me, Rain from Jakarta, Kadin and Open Tech ID. I love it because we have an opportunity to work together to create solutions that have longevity, that also create positive outcomes for a whole bunch of people. Right, there's 280 million almost here in Indonesia, but it goes. And I love Bali. Someone asked me earlier on about why you're in Bali. One reason why I love Bali is because for me it's a fantastic incubator of ideas. The energy, the space, the people, the culture gives you room to breathe, gives you room to look into yourself and pull out ideas that you're probably too busy in other parts of the world to even think about what that would look like. So I love that nature. I love Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, Gotong Royong, Trihita Karana, Trikaya Parasuda, Pancasila. These wonderful elements that really form the DNA of what Indonesia is, and I relate and I love those things. So it's been a pleasure, 513 episodes, to be that vehicle to showing you, wherever you are, these different aspects of what make Bali and Indonesia at large tick through the guests that we interview, be they foreigners or expats, and obviously Balinese as well as Indonesia at large. So just thank you for being part of that journey. I want to thank Brother Guzman over here. Please round of applause for our Brother Guzman, Tropical Nomad. Thank you. Who's been running around putting plastic covers over lights that are going to get, sockets that are open and exposed, and moving the lights around and everything else, but remaining cool, calm, and collective. Thank you, my brother. Thanks again to the audience, as I mentioned. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you next week. Remember, 6:30, come at 6 o'clock, Tropical Nomad, meet people. It's a really good thing. Networking is effective. So right now, I'm going to pass back to our brother Shae Macnamara, who's our guest today, founder, CEO of Expat.Roasters, for final closing comments, remarks, ideas, whatever he wants to do. It's up to him. Thank you.
Well, mate, thank you very much for doing this. I think community is, when we're talking about, what are the final things, but, community and respecting communities and, being sustainable through communities, whether it's business communities, helping people to grow, is super important. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the work you do in business communities for around Bali and also Indonesia, the greater Indonesia as well, mate. So that's great. And, for us, we will, continue to be part part of the Bali community. We'll continue to be part of the business communities around through Indonesia and beyond. And we really will try to keep doing it more sustainably. We'll try to respect the place where we are, respect the values of places like Bali, and to continue to grow sustainably through those areas. So thank you very much for that. And if anyone does want to contact us, we're on all social channels as Expat.Roasters, so www.expat.roasters.com. We're Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever you want to do. So we're on them all. You'll see me dancing on TikTok. No, I'm joking. No.
Dancing videos of Shae on TikTok. Thank you very much. Round of applause, everybody. Thanks to Shae Macnamara, Expat.Roasters. See you next week. Thank you. Mic drop.